This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Seven people reported dead in Afghanistan amid airport chaos as Taliban's co-founder holds talks in Kabul. Kidnappers set free 15 more students abducted from Nigeria's Kaduna state last month. 65 are still missing. And Somalia government forms team to investigate killing of 5 civilians during ambush on AMISOM troops. Hello and thank you for joining us on Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe. We begin the hour in Afghanistan, where 7 people have reportedly been killed amid continued chaos at Kabul airport. NATO says over the past week, 20 people have died at the airport. The Taliban has blamed the US for the casualties. People have been crowding into Kabul airport in hopes of getting onto evacuation flights run by the US and other Western countries. Witnesses say the Taliban has imposed some order in the area. Meanwhile, senior Taliban members are in talks with Afghan politicians on forming a new government. The world is watching to see whether Afghanistan will once again become a safe haven for militants and extremist groups following the Taliban seizure of power. Our correspondent Daniel Khan sends this report from Torkham, a town on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border.
As the Taliban swiftly took control of Afghanistan, the world remains nervous about the possibility of the country once again becoming a safe haven for militants, despite the Taliban giving assurances that they would not allow Afghanistan's soil to be used as a launching pad to attack other countries. But experts say the world will be watching very closely to see if the victorious Afghan insurgents follow through, as 20 years later, the present crop of Taliban leaders may be more reasonable. They know they need international aid to rebuild their war-torn country. But according to a recent UNSC report, Al-Qaeda is still present in at least 15 Afghan provinces. Meanwhile, the banned TTP has long enjoyed sanctuaries along Afghanistan's border areas after being pushed out of Pakistan by military operations in Swat and the tribal districts. There are also reports of an alliance of several splinter groups like the TTP's resurgence that has been witnessed in increasing cross-border attacks into Pakistan. According to the UNSC report, IS, after a beating at the hands of the Taliban and the Afghan forces in Kunar and Nangarhar last year, has dispersed to other provinces and has formed sleeper cells. Reportedly, there are also pockets of Uyghur and Uzbek militants in Afghanistan. Observers say the world must help Afghanistan address the issue of militancy. After all, the major players in Afghanistan, including the US, has had a major role in seeding and enabling extremist violence in that country. Daniel Khan, CGTN, Torkham, Pak-Afghan border.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is planning for a G7 leaders meeting on Tuesday to discuss Afghanistan. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has activated the Civil Reserve Air Fleet to help transport evacuees. The Pentagon says it has enlisted a total of 18 commercial aircrafts operated by airlines, including United, Delta and American Airlines. The planes will not fly into Kabul, but will relocate people who have already been flown out of the country. This is the third time the Civil Reserve Air Fleet has been activated since it was established in the 50s. It was previously used during the Gulf War in 1990 and invasion of Iraq in 2003. U.S. evacuation from Afghanistan is slow, but Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says they have reached out to a few thousand Americans still stranded. Beyond matters of security, the issue of migration is causing concern for many countries around the world. Evacuations continue to take place at Kabul's international airport despite ongoing chaos. Earlier, we talked to Professor Michael Semple from the Senator George Mitchell Institute for Global Peace, Security and Justice at the Queen's University in Belfast. He touched on the state of the EU's relationship with the Taliban as well as the potential for a large wave of future Afghan refugees.
The EU is absolutely clear that it has not recognized and has no imminent plans to recognize a Taliban regime in Kabul. However, it is absolutely correct that the EU has some appropriate working ties with the Taliban even before the takeover of Kabul for the organization of humanitarian assistance. There were some contacts with Taliban on the ground. I expect that for the moment that will continue. If anybody's wondering when EU states or the EU more generally will actually have diplomatic dealings with the Taliban or a diplomatic mission there, I think that is a very long road. The Taliban had a chance of pursuing a negotiated settlement with the support of international community. They gave up that chance. They chose to impose their rule by force that violates all international norms. And I think that the wait for recognition will be a very long one. In terms of the broader scheme of things and the kind of refugee movements that the EU has faced, the people coming out on the airlift, Afghans not holders of EU passports coming out in the airlift, they're relatively small numbers. It's going to be difficult at first. It can be handled. The far bigger question is the next wave. The next wave is potentially millions of people trying to get out of Afghanistan in the months or year or two ahead. Because as of last Sunday, we have to face the fact Afghanistan's a failed state again. Millions of Afghans are doubtful about their future in the country, and that's why you've seen the rapid movement to tighten border barriers in Greece. And I think that the attitude of the EU and member states is likely to be to try and stem that tide, but it's going to be an incredibly difficult task.
Dozens of Somalis protested in Mogadishu for the 5th day following the killing of 7 civilians in the Lower Shabelle region by peacekeepers. According to residents, 5 of those who were killed were farmers, while 2 others were people traveling through the area. The incident happened near the village of Golwen, the base for the Ugandan contingent in AMISOM.
The African Union mission in Somalia confirmed the death of 7 people in Somalia's Lower Shabelle region. In a statement, it was verified that the victims killed by AMISOM forces were not members of the Al-Shabaab group. The incident happened following an ambush by militants during a routine patrol by peacekeepers near the village of Golwen.
My husband was one of the drivers killed by AMISOM. I am demanding justice. I have 7 kids. The oldest is only 8 years. I want to ask the President and the Prime Minister to ensure we get our rights. He was killed in a farmland while heading to Kismayo.
Governments who issue professional training to the army accord them with techniques to carrying out operations safely without harming those who are not in the fight. Foreign troops or Somali soldiers in their all forms and states are therefore expected to respect the right, dignity and property of those who are not party to the fight anywhere.
The government of Somalia has responded by appointing a commission composed of ministers to investigate the incident. The leadership of the African Union forces has also promised a transparent inquiry into the matter.
The Somali government will not accept any harm inflicted on its citizen by AMISOM or even the Somali National Army. Our people should feel protected. The government will be there to defend their right. You mandated us to defend your rights. I want to send my condolences to the families of the victims. I appointed a commission consisting of ministers that include the Ministers of Security, Internal Affairs, Defense and Justice who will meet the Uganda ambassador to Somalia and AMISOM. They will address this issue.
The African Union mission in Somalia has been present in the nation since 2007. The cohort is comprised of troops from neighboring countries with a mandate to support peace operations to stabilize Somalia. Wilkis Anyabwa, CGTN.
In Niger, at least 16 people have been killed in the southwestern village of Tem in the Telaberi region. The attack by unidentified gunmen occurred during Friday prayers in an area that has become notorious for civilian massacres this year. Multiple ambushes have been reported in surrounding villages, orchestrated by fighters linked to the ISIS armed group. More than 11,000 people have been forced from their homes due to the unrest. Authorities say forces behind the wave of attacks operate freely despite strict government controls. The latest incident follows the killing of 37 civilians in a village in the same region earlier this month. To combat rising attacks, Niger has declared a state of emergency and closed markets suspected of supplying armed groups. Meanwhile, in neighboring Nigeria, at least 75 people have been kidnapped from a village in the northwestern part of the country. Witnesses from the village of Rini in Zamfara state said the kidnappers raided the area on more than 50 motorcycles. They are also reported to have looted from the residents during the attack. Security officials have confirmed the incident. However, more details are yet to be released. This is the latest in a trend of abductions that have plagued the West African nation. The crimes are often carried out for ransom, with dozens of school children targeted in the last few months. And staying in Nigeria, police confirmed 15 students kidnapped by gunmen have been freed. The students were kidnapped from a secondary school in Kaduna 48 days ago on July 5th. The chairperson of the Christian Association of Nigeria says 65 students still remain in captivity. Negotiations are still ongoing with the gunmen for the release of the remaining students. You're watching Africa Live. We're taking a short break. Straight ahead. Too hot in some parts and too cold in others, the two extremes of weather in Africa in the last 2 months.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba, Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
In Egypt, social assistance is provided through two main cash transfer schemes. Takaful assists poor households, and Karama is aimed at the elderly, the disabled and orphans. The government has increased both the amounts of money and the number of beneficiaries from the schemes to cushion them from the hardships caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Yasser Hakim met with a retired 83-year-old carpenter and his wife who receive a monthly cash relief from the Takaful and Karama funds.
My wife and I don't have any children, just sisters and brothers who all passed away. I stopped work 25 years ago after a street accident. I fell off the pavement and broke my legs, had 3 operations and was not able to continue to work.
I used to work in a Quran teaching state center, and when I had health issues in my back and heart, I retired and received monthly pension from the state. It helps in the expenses.
I kept chasing state institutions and ministries for 8 years, complaining and requesting pension, but to no avail. The president, God bless him, when he took office, he made a study about people like us and formed the scheme. They found my old complaints and gave me a visa to withdraw the money. But before that, they studied my case at the Ministry of Social Solidarity, interviewed me, and then gave me the visa to receive cash every 16th of the month.
God bless the president. His pension has been a savior. Before that, we lost hope. How can we live without it? How can we eat, buy our needs, pay for medicine? Our relatives cannot help us because they are poor too. So we go by with my pension and his pension. I wish they can increase the Takaful and Karama pension more, especially for those who buy expensive medicine.
Those charitable people at the scheme have helped me a lot in my life. It has helped in my living expenses, and also my former clients send me monthly assistance.
Egypt's Meteorological Authority is forecasting extremely hot weather conditions during the week. The EMA said that Cairo, the Nile Delta, Upper Egypt and South Sinai were all experiencing high temperatures in the daytime. The average temperature in northern Upper Egypt is exceeding 40 degrees Celsius, while southern Upper Egypt is averaging around 43 degrees. Yasser Hakim looks at how Egyptians are coping with the extreme heat.
Global warming is very clear to see. Cairo and other cities are hit by unprecedented high temperatures exceeding 45 degrees in some areas. And most Egyptians, like Hiba Salah, have felt the brunt of the heat.
We nearly never switch off the AC in the house, in the car, or anywhere. It's unusual. Our lives have changed to a large extent. Our children don't sleep early anymore. They stay up late so they can spend all day sleeping away from the heat. Now we start going out from 7 to 8 at night. Even our food habits changed. We eat light food. We eat mainly fruits for breakfast and dinner. Salads are the main component for lunch. Tomatoes, cucumbers, and lettuce are important. Drinking water and juice adds energy to the body.
Temperatures have been gradually increasing over the last few years. Hiba, who runs her own home catering service, says the extreme summer heat has had its effects on her daily activities.
I'm connected to a weather app to show me the temperatures every morning and during the day. Never did this before. I postpone most of the day's appointments until late and sometimes send someone else to do my work errands. The heat, going out less, unable to move easily in hot weather, especially for work or shopping, all these are restrictions we are facing more frequently during the summer.
Experts are sounding alarm bells that this extreme heat is harmful, especially to those who are exposed to the daily sun.
The most common hazards from extreme heat are sunstrokes, which could be a life-threatening condition, and cases have to be taken straight to hospital. In my specialty, which is dermatology, cases like skin burns could sometimes be critical, especially first-degree and second-degree burns. There are also skin fungi that develops in the heat, and when you take many showers without properly drying oneself, it also develops bacteria on the skin.
Egyptians are unaccustomed to these conditions and therefore have to take certain precautions to avoid any health issues.
First precaution from skin burns is to avoid direct sun, especially those who go to the beaches. Avoid sun rays from 10 a.m. till 4:30. That's when it is the strongest, with ultraviolet rays that cause critical burns. Secondly is to use sunblocks on the skin half an hour before being exposed to the sun, and then every 2 hours. It's very important to dry the body. Most of the cases are because of this issue. Must dry well after showers or swimming and wear dry clothes.
Experts say preserving food is important in the summer because it spoils quickly in the heat. Drinking lots of water and liquid is also essential to pass the summer safely. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
In Kenya, the months of June and July are considered the peaks of the cold season. This year, however, in parts of the country, the cold season has extended to August. Residents in the coldest areas have had to find ways to cope, even as healthcare specialists warn that it is important to take measures to keep the cold at bay.
It's about 5:30 in the morning and we're around Nairobi's Central Business District. My weather app says it's about 14 degrees Celsius outside, which is chilly by Nairobi standards in August. We are heading to Limuru, which is a tea growing zone just outside the city, and it tends to get even colder there. Mornings are for piping hot tea and layers of warm clothing. That's how Emily Wamboi keeps her household warm. Through the years, families in one of Kenya's coldest areas have adapted to the low temperatures. But the cold season, which typically ends in July, has extended to August.
We have not seen sun for a long time. It comes, it disappears. And now we are wearing very heavy clothes each and every day. Even at night, we cannot stay without the heavy clothes.
Data from Kenya's Meteorological Department shows that in this region, in recent weeks, the weather has often dipped to about 11 degrees Celsius. In comparison, normal temperatures around Nairobi range between 24 to 28 degrees. This has left residents scrambling to make adjustments.
They are always staying with fire. You buy charcoal, you buy warm clothes, you stay indoors most of the times, you don't move around.
Next door, Rosemary Njeri is having a hard time finding dry, warm clothing for her son.
The challenge is our clothes take too long to dry.
Across the region, the cold continues to exact a heavy toll. Businesses begin to operate later in the day when it's warmer and there's better visibility. Even the farming sector is struggling.
Taking too long for the tea to be picked. Even the crops like the cabbages, the kales, they're taking even too long to mature.
But climate scientists say there's a good explanation for the phenomenon.
But the recent cold, I think it is caused by a cold air that is flowing from the Congo Basin area. The sun is more focused now on, for example, Egypt and that part of the world. And so here it is a bit cooler than usual.
Health experts add there's no need to panic.
So you find that when a human being is exposed to very low temperatures, the body has a way of adjusting to increase the temperature of the person.
And most of all, medics stress, no matter how tempting it is to huddle together during the COVID-19 pandemic, the public must keep their distance and maintain good ventilation to prevent the spread of diseases. Wilkis Anyabwa, CGTN.